am so excited to be sitting down here today with you because this is the video from hell. This is the video that refuses to be recorded. I am recording this on the day that I was supposed to post it. I've been wanting to film this since April. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it every quarter. This is gonna be so fun. Like I had this whole like series concept in my mind. And then, you know, life just keeps happening to me aggressively and so rudely months later, but I am recording it. So I'm excited. My setup looks a little bit different because I am recording this in the laziest way I possibly can to try and minimize the amount of editing that I need to do. So I'm filming with my computer. Apologies if you notice a massive change in quality. I promise it's just for this one. I'm trying to get this to you as quickly as possible because the time that I was supposed to film this, someone had an allergic reaction and had to be taken to the vet. So he's in his little cone of shame at the moment. And he's having a hard time adapting to it. He's also on some meds, so he's like not feeling super great. So you might see him bumping around. You might hear the mic get hit. Like, I'm sorry if it happens. With all of that out of the way, I did just want to mention before I get into the screen share, I'm only doing couples, right? I'm only doing people who are like somewhat monogamous, like there's a primary, like two people. I didn't want to try and do any books that had menage or I choose, because then I feel like it introduces too much complexity, right? Like, are we ranking the unit or people within the units? Like, do I think these two would survive, but maybe this person wouldn't? It was too much. It was too much. I was overcomplicating it. So I decided they're just out. And then I left out any like second and third books in the series. I'm only putting in like first books or something like that. I don't know. It's most of them. Okay, just, I don't know why I'm arguing. Nobody cares. Let's get into it, right? Let's do the screen share. I have a feeling that these tiers are gonna get quite bulky. So let's go through them, shall we? Fated mates. These are soulmates. They were going to be together regardless of the lifetime that we're talking about. They're meant to be. Then we have Hercules. And this is just because there's one song in Hercules, I Will Go the Distance. Actually, I don't even know if that's the name of the title, but in my mind it is because that's the main lyric that stuck out. So these are the couples that I think are pretty strong. They're pretty solid. They may be no soulmates, but like they'll do well. Milquetoast. These are for the boring couples or the couples that I think they overblew their chemistry a little bit. Like they're kind of average. Like they're good. They're okay. Then we have orthodontics, and that means that this couple is a little bit misaligned. We have some stuff that we need to work through, certainly, and I give them at best a 50-50 shot if they can work through it. I might love them together. I might think that they are delightful when paired together because they're toxic and terrible, but I don't think that they're like quite as strong of a couple as they maybe believe themselves to be, and maybe they don't believe themselves to be that strong. Then we have Chernobyl. Chernobyl means there's probably not going to be any survivors. Someone might end up in prison. Basically, we're getting divorced. Like, this is for my toxic couples. These are for the ones that, whether I like them or not, I think they're terrible together. Like, if we were out in the real world, have your divorce lawyer on speed dial. They're not making it. And then I have a category called No Thoughts, Empty Head, and these are for the couples that are probably milquetoast realistically, but they're so milquetoast that I genuinely forgot all about them and their relationship, and I don't remember anything about them. Now that we have that out of the way, I don't know why I did that. That was really awkward. Let's just get going. We are starting off with a banger, and that is 8 Days for Salvation by Yolanda Olson. And oh my God, Chernobyl. This I don't even think was a romance. I think we need to be really honest with ourselves here. This was a horror novel through and through, and whoever said it's dark romance is lying. Liar, liar. This was terrifying. Moving on, Hitched. I mean, look, he's an escapee prisoner that has a penchant for unaliving people. There's no other category. That ending, not convincing. Like, I don't think they're gonna make it. In fact, I'm convinced one of them will end up dead. Okay, moving on. Next up we have The Darkness Beyond the Daisies. Controversial. I think these two would end up in orthodontics. Look, I love these two separately. Together, you know, I think they could make it work. I saw glimmers of it with them together, but I think they could also be Chernobyl. I'm just gonna be honest. I think this could really come to blows. But because I saw the glimmers, I saw the glimpses, I think they could work on themselves and make this work. Okay, moving on. Below the Pulse by C.L. Monaghan. Hercules. I I really like these two together. I do think that they have some stuff that they're working through individually, but I think as a couple, they're pretty strong by the end. I feel like they'd be good. The Lies We Steal by Monty J. I think this is another Hercules couple. I mean, these two, I feel like are kind of meant for each other. Maybe that does make them soulmates. No, we can't. No, we have to save that for very special couples. Yes. Okay, I feel fine about that. What does that say? Vicious Impulses by Sienna Vega? Milk toast. Milk toast. I think they believe that they have a very strong bond, and I love that for them. I don't know. I thought they were kind of a boring match, to be honest. I didn't really super love this book. It wasn't bad, but I was just kind of like, you guys are really dramatic, and there's not too much going on. You know? I feel like I'm over explaining. Let's move on to Pen Pal by J.T. Geisinger. These two, fated mates. And if you've read the book, you understand. And if you know, you know, right? Like that ending, there is no other option. They have to be fated mates. I mean, he protected her, okay? Those two absolutely belong together in all dimensions. And that's all I'm going to say on that. The truths we burn. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be really honest with you. I think these two are soulmates. I think most people, if you've read these books, would expect me to put this in Hercules. I really think that these two are meant for each other. Now, is that my own bias because this is the exact type of pairing that I love? I love prickly gal that's really just got her hackles up and then she falls for the absolute wrong guy who is damaged. Maybe this is a me thing. I feel how I feel. They're fated mates. Okay, moving on. Until I Get You by Claire Contreras. I need to stop. I sing in all of these. Why do I do that when I'm tier ranking? What a weird move. Milk toast. Milk toast. I think these two really think that they're soulmates. I just didn't get their chemistry. I loved the idea of them fighting to be together, having a second chance. He loved her. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it by the end. I really didn't. Milk toast it is. All right, next we have the Cloister series. So The Maiden by Celia Aaron. Ooh, okay. This one is really tricky. I'm between these two. I'm between Hercules and Orthodontics. And here's why. Because we don't see them outside of the cult very much. They're in the cult environment. That could drastically change their chances of being a couple together. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you just trauma bonded. I'm going to put them in Orthodontics because I think they could work. I think they could work if they worked on themselves, probably, or worked together, but it would take a little bit. We've got some trauma that we've definitely got to work through. So that feels like the right one. Because they're certainly not a boring couple. They were a very fascinating couple. I loved reading about them. Chasing Midnight. And this is by Cindy Dawson. Okay. Milk toast. Honestly, I'm between that and Chernobyl because the ending on this, I don't think is an HEA. I hated the ending. It's at best, happy for now. They're not fighting that hard to be together. You know, I'm going to put them in Chernobyl. That's a controversial pick because I think they could just be milk toast. Whatever. I said what I said. Serpentine Valentine by Gianna Darling. Ooh. Hercules. I feel like these two are pretty well suited for each other. They're a solid pairing. I feel like they go together. They work nicely with one another. They've gone up against some intense stuff and come out the other side. So I feel like they would make it. Delicious by AJ Merlin. Milk toast. This couple was so vanilla. I don't remember a ton about them. They almost deserve to be in No Thoughts, Empty Head, but I do remember reading this book because it was for a vlog, and I remember just feeling like there was supposed to be this intense connection, this intense chemistry, and it was just not there. There was just nothing. But they acted like they had an undeniable connection because it's a darker romance, or so it was supposed to be. It was a little bit too saccharine. Moving along. Deliver by Pam Godwin. Fated mates, baby. These two would always be together. And you'll want to know why? I don't know why I said why that way. Because of the hero. The hero alone would make sure that they were together for time and all eternity in every single dimension. That's why. He is obsessed with her in that super genuine way where she's like, I'm a terrible person. And he's like, obsessed. I still love you. and I want everything about you. And he would fight so hard to make the heroine see that. Okay, I have yammered on enough. I love this hero. Love him. Next up, we have Thirst. Oof. Oof. I mean, they could go in any of the bottom three categories. I think they could be considered milquetoast. They could be considered orthodontics and misaligned. They could be considered Chernobyl. This is a toughie because here's the things that I'm thinking, right? Like, I didn't feel like this couple had very much chemistry. It felt a little forced. It felt like the author was engaging in a little bit of wish fulfillment, a little bit of like fanfickiness, where it was like, what if the dark, dangerous guy loved me, an average girl? So I didn't necessarily feel any chemistry with them. They're certainly misaligned because the hero springs a lot of things on the heroine, especially towards the end of the book, that are a little bit like, you could have prepared a bitch. And then they also could be Chernobyl because like maybe this all explodes. I didn't understand their chemistry enough to know if they would be like explosive levels of not good for each other. But then again, I have Chasing Midnight in there. And that couple has just nothing. Those two would get divorced, by the way. I think I'm going to put them in milquetoast. I think I'm going to put them in milquetoast. I think that they really believe in their chemistry, so they would end up staying together. I don't think that these two would separate, but they would maybe like fight quite a bit. Maybe that makes them orthodontics. You know what? Orthodontics. Orthodontics. Final answer. I'm probably going to change that later. Okay, moving on. Under a Lock by Mariana Zapata. Oh my God. Orthodontics. These two, these two have not only no chemistry, I just don't think that they really want a lot of the same things out of life. Like, I genuinely think that the hero is a massive jerk, and eventually the sunshiny heroine will get sick of him. So they're gonna have to work on their relationship or they will get divorced, you know? Okay, now we have Dark City Omega by Elizabeth Stevens. Fated Mates. Fated Mates. I loved these two so much. Once again, this is the hero would hunt her down in every lifetime and in every dimension. And also there is like a fated element even within the book. So it only feels right. I like their chemistry was like so palpable. I didn't even really care too much about how brief the spicy scenes were, because I was like, perfect. The culmination of their intense passion for one another and how much they fought it, but then eventually come together. Yeah, they would always be together. All right, next up we have Choosing Theo. Hercules. I think these two, they started off misaligned. I mean, obviously, because the heroine is from another planet, so they would need some tune-ups, but I feel like that happened during the book, and even their proclivities, shall we say, were very similar. Yeah, they would go the distance. I mean, technically, I think they're supposed to be fated based on, like, what happens. But, like, in every dimension for time and all eternity? I don't think so. And I'll buy it. They were in the real world. If they had to live on planet Earth and didn't have that element in their book, Hercules. Now we have Vanquish by Pam Godwin. Chernobyl. Oh my God, these two should not be together. Like, their book was fun and interesting. It was sort of like a wild time because the heroine has what is it called when you can't go outside? Agoraphobia. So the heroine has agoraphobia, right? And the hero takes her captive. So he's not actually really like holding her captive. He just like brought her to his house. But because she can't leave because of the agoraphobia, is he really keeping her captive? Is her agoraphobia keeping her captive? I mean, arguably he is keeping her captive and weaponizing her agoraphobia, but also she was more afraid of going outside than she was of him. That's where the mindfuck comes in, right? But also, like, I don't think he's a very good person. And I think that this would go south very soon. Very soon. Next up, we have Ensnared. Who is this by? Tiffany Roberts. Yep, Tiffany Roberts. I mean, look, if you can love a spider, I think you probably were destined to love that person in every dimension. In whatever form they come in, that's a bold move, girlfriend. That feels right. They don't have like the most chemistry, but like I do believe that if you are banging a spider, you have to be soulmates, because what a choice otherwise, right? All right, next up we have The Headmistress by Melina Mackay. Hercules. Their chemistry is really, really good. I love these two. Actually, right now I'm reading Magdalena Knox, which is the companion. It's the headmistress, but from the icy heroine Magdalena's perspective. And I still love it. I love it so much. Ugh, I love Milena Mackay's writing. Okay, but definitely Hercules. There is a little part of me that's like, fated mates? Maybe? Maybe? All right. Next up, we have Let There Be Light, and this is by A.M. Johnson. Oh, these two are cute. These two are cute. I think that they would make it. I do. They were a sweet couple. Is that enough of a reason? Like, I don't think that they would get divorced. They're very different, but they worked together. They really played up the whole, like, he's a jock, he's an artist thing, but I felt like they were pretty similar when it really came down to it. And they had a pretty strong relationship because they had to deal with homophobia. So, like, you know, oh, speaking of, For the Fans by Nyla K. Oh my God, fated mates. These two are soulmates. Good Lord. This is one of those books I got done and I was like, that chemistry was so good. That tension was so perfect. It was so clear that these two, regardless of circumstances, should have ended up together. And they just happen to be stepbrothers, which is a weird way to come together, but like, what delicious tension. I don't feel like I'm telling you anything in particular about the couple that justifies this ranking, but I feel like if you've read the book, like you felt it. You felt how much these two were drawn toward each other despite their best efforts to resist. And I'm like, that sort of magnetism, soulmates, right? Fated mates. Okay, Crescent City. Oh no, I'm gonna get shit for this one. No Thoughts, Empty Head. I don't remember the couple in this book. I'm sorry. I genuinely don't. I remember, this is honestly, okay, in fairness, this is one of my favorite SJM books. I really enjoyed it, but I remember the plot and not really that there was a romance. I remember the smut being in weird spots. And that's the thing that I remember. I don't even remember his name. Is it Hunt? Or is that her brother? Did I just do a little Star Wars love triangle to this book that I didn't mean to? Again, no thoughts, empty head. Or maybe a lot of thoughts, but all of it scrambled eggs. All right, next up, Carved in Scars by my girl, Elle Mitchell. Look, if they can overcome the fact that he blamed her for being accused of murder, I don't know what else life could throw at them. Do I think they're fated? Probably not. Seriously, what else could life throw at you? I feel like you'd go the distance. You'd have to. All right, next up we have The Wall of Winnipeg by Mariana Zapata. Oh, 100% Hercules. These two are delightful together. They're so sweet. He has such that like barbarian stoic man way of expressing himself, but he comes around because he cares about the heroine. He really does try and adapt his like grunting Neanderthal ways to what she wants. And I think that that's really sweet. Like he did the work to go from like orthodontia, like we're not really that compatible, all the way to like, yeah, we could absolutely go the distance in the course of the book. So, all right, A Fate in my mouth. All right, A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. Okay, so here's my thoughts. I'm between Hercules and Fated Mates. I think that based on the plot of the book, they're probably technically fated, but I feel like they're just like a solid pairing, personality-wise. Yeah, well, Hercules. I mean, look, he was very protective of her. He would have done anything for her and was willing to be with her even though she was married to his dad. They had good chemistry. I remember that was the thing that made me buy the book, was I was in pain and laughing at their banter. All right, Bride by Allie Hazelwood. Orthodontics. Here's the thing, I really enjoyed reading this book. Thought it was a fun version of Allie Hazelwood. I felt like she kind of toned down some of her like quirkiness, but like I don't feel like the hero and heroine spent that much time on page together for me to even be able to understand whether or not they would be a good match. I don't think that they would separate just because of the political alliances that would be at risk because of that. However, they're not milquetoast. I remember them, but I don't know that they'd make it for sure as a solid unit. I rest my case, Your Honor. Okay, moving on to These Thin Lines by Milena Mackay. Orthodontics. I don't think that these two, once again, knew each other all that well, and there was scheming afoot and a lack of communication that just went on for way too long. Way too long. And one of the heroines chose her crappy family and protecting them over the other heroine. And I just don't think that you would do that if you were like fated mates, right? Like you would pick your person every time. Yeah. Orthodontics. Okay, next up, all roads lead here. Absolutely Hercules. That's by Mariana Zapata as well. These two are a really solid match. I felt like their lifestyles matched together. I mean, hell, she kind of became a stepmom even before she became a stepmom. And once again, the hero slowly bent to what she wanted. Well, I think he was kind of always the person that she wanted secretly, and she did a lot of growing and changing. But I think they kind of started out here and they like grew together throughout the course of the book, and their lives just became intertwined. And I'm like, that's the sign of a good, healthy relationship. Perfect. They're gonna make it. Next up, we have Tattered by Devney Perry. I'm between Milquetoast and Orthodontics. No, Milquetoast. They might be a little bit misaligned on certain things. Actually, no, I just talked myself into Orthodontics for one specific reason. They don't want to live in the same place. And I think that might drive them apart at a certain point because one of them wants to live in a rural area and one of them wants to live in the city. And they were both trying to convince each other. So I think that that's going to cause some major issues down the road. If they don't work on it, they might not end up together. That's a pretty big issue because one of them has to make a massive concession. But also, like, I don't think it would be explosive because they have a daughter together. That's how I feel. Okay, next up we have 7 Shades of You, All the Shades of You. I can't read it. This is also by C.M. Johnson. Nope, that's not it. A.M. Johnson. Milquetoast. Milquetoast. These two were so vanilla, so boring. I'm glad that they found each other, but like I didn't think that they had any chemistry where I was like wowed by it, that it felt inevitable, like they had this amazing connection. It was sort of just kind of like, all right, I mean, that seems right, I guess. All right, next up we have My Life in Shambles by Karina Howley. Hercules. I mean, I don't think that there's any reason they won't end up together. I think because the hero introduced her to a different type of life that she had been kind of searching for, and that's what he could offer her. I was kind of like, I think it makes sense that they would end up together. Plus, I mean, I feel like she's really liked his family quite a bit too. All right, Butcher and Blackbird by, I almost said Bryn Ford. Bryn Weaver. Milquetoast. Milquetoast. I don't think that these two are misaligned. I think that they're a pretty good match considering what they both do. But I think they believe themselves to be way more intensely in love than what I saw on the page. For that reason, I think they'd stay together, but their love is vanilla. Like, they're going to end up in the suburbs with a couple of kids and probably still unaliving and bringing their kids into the family. And hold on. I just realized in my ramblings that I was basically had the setup for R.I.P. by Charity B. Is this how that happens? Wild fan theory. I think R.I.P. Charity B is next gen after Butcher and Blackbird. I said what I said. I mean, think about it. If they brought their kids in to start unaliving people, the next generation gets real weird. I'm scared of my own brain after saying that. Okay, let's move on. Next up, we have Rivals, and this is by Jessica Mile. Hercules. I think this is a really solid relationship. I mean, she overcame her drug addiction, so as long as that stays in check, I think that they're pretty well matched. They're both artists together, and I think that, like, if them being in business together and just kind of, like, constantly being obsessed and interested and intertwined with both their business and personal lives, I think would end up doing really well for them. Because, like, they're passionate, right? They're artists. Could they get explosive? Potentially, but I think because they work so well together, I don't think it'll come to that, because they never really got explosive in the book. We have Freeing Luca, and this is by Victoria Aveline. I have a vague memory of this couple not being very well suited for each other, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't super remember this book. I'm gonna put them in no thoughts, empty head. I think that's the second book in the series. I don't really remember the couple. I just remember, like, towards the end, he was getting really possessive and she wasn't into it. But I honestly don't really remember that book. All right, next up we have King by T.M. Fraser. I hope I got that right. Chernobyl. I'm sorry, but you cannot convince me that a 18-year-old and a formerly convicted drug kingpin are gonna end up together long term. There's just no way. She's 18. She's going to end up changing so much. And knowing he has a temper, it's going to come to blows. These two will end up divorced. They'll be like 5 kids deep when it happens too. there's no way it's gonna work. All right, let's move on. The Pieces We Leave Behind by Elle Mitchell. Hercules. I think these two will end up together long term. I think they wanted a lot of the same things out of life. It was more like life circumstances kind of got in their way and were part of the reasons that they like struggled to kind of come together. By the end, I mean, I felt like they were aligned on what they both wanted out of life and were both willing to make concessions to like stay together. So I feel like they would be able to make it long term because they can compromise, folks. Compromise. All right, next up we have Unloved by Katie Regnery. Regnery? Milk toast. Milk toast. The story is very interesting, and I think they'll stay together, but I think they're kind of a vanilla couple. Like they're suburbs, picket fence type of couple. They're not that remarkable. Cool circumstances brought them together. That's about it. Unbreakable? Yeah. Unbreakable by Emma Scott. Ooh, this is another one that I like I said, I think they'll stay together. I just don't think their chemistry is that amazing. So they're gonna go on milquetoast. I felt like they were well suited, but I think that their backgrounds are gonna come back to bite them because they come from such different worlds that trauma bonding only gets you so far. And I think that like they'll make it, but I don't think that once again it's gonna be that special. They're fine. They'll be fine together. All right, next up we have The Fabric of Our Souls. Hercules. They will stay together. I think that this is one where the trauma will keep them together. I also think that they were just so well suited to begin with in a weird way because they were like the perfect opposites attract. I felt like that made them compatible in a weird way because like their mental health issues were like opposite. These two will stay together. Make me pretty. Oh, good Lord. I'm between orthodontics and Chernobyl because in a weird way, they're sort of, no, I'm going to put them in orthodontics because I think that they could be really well suited for one another once they get over their crap. And maybe by the end of their series, I would consider them like a little bit higher up. But because of how this book ended, they're like barely on the same page. I think a little bit of work on their communication could go a long way so they can stop fighting. Swift and Saddled. Milk toast. I remember them. They're out in the sticks with one another. It's not like she's got other options. I mean, sure, they'll end up together. Why not? Bite the Woman That Feeds. And this is by, I can't see. Penelope Barsetti? Something like that. Penelope Barsetti, I think? No Thoughts Empty Head. I really don't remember this couple. I liked this book when I read it, but I even finished it and I remember thinking, oh, what a fun time. I'm definitely going to forget all of this. Okay, next up we have Cautioned? That's not it. Auctioned by Cara D. Orthodontics. They could work. I just don't think that these two know each other that well. And there's a pretty big age gap. So I think that this could cause some issues long term. And I think that there were moments where they were like not on the same page. And if we didn't have these circumstances driving them together, would they still be together? I don't know. When we're on the ship, in the auctioned situation, sure. I think once we get home, we might have some problems that we need to work through. Saving Verico. Oh my God. Orthodontics. These two could probably make it. And again, in this world, technically they're fated. I don't know about that. There was like this survivalist, like they're forced together, they have to work together, which I thought was really fun. And these two got to the city, all of a sudden they're fighting all the time, are bad at communicating. This is what I talk about when I'm talking about the misalignment, where I'm like, I believe it for the book, like sure, in that setting, but if we brought you into the real world, you wouldn't do well, and this is proof of that. These two would not do well. All right, next up we have Only for the Week, and this is by Natasha Bishop. Oh, Hercules. These two would absolutely end up together. They had such delicious chemistry, and it was so immediate where they were just both like feeling it. Well, I shouldn't say that. The heroine was like a little bit standoffish at first, and she was like, why are you like this? But the hero was very into her and was like, you're hot. We should bang for the week. I will be your stress ball. I didn't think through that analogy before I threw it out there. That was a mistake on my part. They would end up together. They would be a super solid couple. Okay, 7 years. So this one, I think that they would make it, once again, I think technically they're fated mates in the books, but like, I think they're a solid couple. They felt well matched. He's an alpha, she's a fiery female that can keep up with him. That makes sense. Counts of 8 by Bryn Ford. Fated mates all day, every day. Once again, this is because the hero is so passionately obsessed with the heroine. He wants to take away her burdens, and if they can meet under those circumstances and end up together, I mean, come on. All right, so my rant about how fated they were ended up being interrupted because my computer battery was about to die, so we had to shift a little bit. Sorry about that. I don't know why I did like a little Alexis move from Schitt's Creek. But yeah, these two would absolutely end up together because that hero would always fight for it. He would always fight for it. And I think she would always feel that chemistry. She would always feel that little bit of tug, that little bit of pull. These two are fated. I mean, they fought through horrific circumstances to end up together. Horrific. I believe it. Okay, next up, Lovely Bad Things. Chernobyl. I don't understand. I'm trying to talk about this book without spoiling it. Oh, Conehead decided to join us. Hi, buddy. You want to say hi? Yeah, you hate it. I know. There's so much going on in this book. I hated the couple. I didn't think that they had chemistry. It took me by surprise. And also, they're kind of on opposite sides of the law. So I don't know how that would work out long term. Oh, my baby. Ugh, I can tell he's not feeling well. He's so cuddly. Okay, next up. 6 months. This is another Chernobyl. There is no way these two end up together long term. They are so not well matched. He is so aggressive with her, and she is sweet and demure and sort of a doormat. And like at some point, that is going to blow up in their face. Absolutely, 911. They will get divorced. There is no way they can make that work. He was so aggressive, possessive. He didn't communicate with her, and she can't communicate either. That is going to cause them so many problems. Like constantly, she was just like running away from the hero because she just couldn't deal with her feelings, whatever that means. Okay, ecstasy, also Chernobyl. No way they worked through enough of their crap to not have that end terribly at some point. He has anger issues, she has a drug problem. All right, funny feelings. Hercules. She gets along really well with his daughter. They're both comedians. I feel like they're set up for success. They've got a lot in common. Still beating. Oh, Hercules. They went through a lot. I think that they really put in the work throughout the book to have a successful relationship after the trauma bond wore off. Conehead is looking so hard. I'm so sorry if that's picking up on the mic. I can't tell. All right, funny story by Emily Henry, Hercules. Absolutely, these two would end up together. I think that like the circumstances that brought them together are pretty ridiculous, but the tension was so good that these two were just like, it was palpable with them. All right, next up, Without You. I'm between Hercules and Milquetoast. Like, I think that they have, can you not lick me? Oh, honey. Okay, we're gonna speed through these because someone needs my attention really bad. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. I know. Okay, Without You. I'm between Milquetoast and Hercules. I feel like, you know what? No, they would end up together. I feel like because they had to deal with a lot of his family stuff in the book, and that more or less got resolved. And that would have been the main thing that would drive them apart, I would imagine. And they had worked through quite a bit of like, how do we be together long term throughout? If you can deal with the fact that this was your brother's person, yeah, he won't stop licking the cone. I have a window licker on my hands. Can you not? Thank you. All right, her soul to take, Milquetoast. I don't really think that the romance is the strongest component of this book. Sir, can you do that somewhere else? That sound is disgusting and it's really distracting me. Where we started, Hercules. These two would work out long term. I think because they're both part of the same motorcycle club. I feel like that bodes well for them. They worked through a lot of the rejection that they felt, and they had a really solid relationship and like talked through all of their like things that led to their initial breakup to cause a second chance. So I feel like they did the work. All right, Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer. Once again, Hercules. These two are a really solid couple. I think the hero really was oriented towards the heroine and would allow them to work through all of these different situations. Even if the heroine was kind of feeling resistant at a different point, the hero would have put in the work to like make up the difference. So I think these two would be really, really solid. Okay, older. So here's what I'm thinking. We do have an age gap, which already I'm kind of like, that doesn't bode super well for long-term relationships generally, because you're going to hit some snags, some differences that are going to cause problems. I don't think that they're particularly misaligned because they seem to want similar things long-term, like they want the house, the picket fence, but there are some things standing in their way with his family and her being friends with his daughter that would be hard to resolve. I don't know. I'm going to put them in misaligned just because I think some of that family stuff, I don't know long term that wouldn't cause problems for them. Okay, moving on. One Hot Italian Summer by Karina Halley. I'm going to put this in Milquetoast. No, actually, no. I'm going to put that in Hercules. I feel like I'm putting too many books there, but I think that the hero with his aggressive communication style, and that makes it sound like he's aggressive. He's not aggressive. He's just like, we must communicate. I don't know what accent that was, and I'm embarrassed that I did it, but I think that he would make it work. And I think the heroine was really infatuated with him. Okay. The Awakening of Ivy Leovold. Here's the thing. I think these two are aligned. I just think they are the most boring couple I've ever encountered in my goddamn life. I don't even remember if I finished this book. I think I finished it. I think I did, but I might have DNF'd it. I genuinely don't remember. And I remember how boring they were. That's the thing. They're not No Thoughts Empty Head because I remember them. I just remember them being boring. Okay. A Little Unstable by Elle Mitchell. Orthodontics. I think that they could make it work. And I think they put in a lot of the work to make things work. However, I think there are definitely some unresolved issues, specifically with the hero's mental health, that could throw a wrench in things because they did start from this like toxic kind of enemies to lovers situation. And so they like migrated together, but there was still a level of toxicity that makes me concerned for the long term. All right. And finally, All the Ugly Things by Stacey Lynn. Milquetoast. What chemistry? What chemistry? This was supposed to be like a friends to lovers, maybe friends. But yeah, nothing to write home about. Okay, take a look. These are all of our final bachelors and bachelorettes and bachelorettes and bachelorettes and bachelors and bachelors. I over-explained that. Cool. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for putting up with the weird format and filming style and all the transitions and Conehead joining us. He is still licking my leg, which I love so much. With all of that, let me know if you've read any of these books. What do you think of my ranking? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have a couple that you thought of immediately when I described one of these like tiers where you're like, absolutely, the couple from this book would end up here? If you don't have anything to say, or you would like to show some support, throw your favorite emoji in the comments. Whatever it is, I want to know. Is it the fried shrimp emoji? I'm really curious who uses that one. I just have a lot of questions about why that's an emoji they thought we needed. But don't forget to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want more content from me, and I really, really hope I see you on my next video. Bye-bye!